We're talking about fantasy focus today. It'll be fast starts. And Ant had two names he brought to the table that one of them I had looked at, and I'm glad he had it because then it's like, all right, let's definitely do that one. And another one, which was a little outside the box because I like it because we're going to talk some Anaheim Ducks. But first up, Mr. Shane Pinto. And this was one of the guys you wanted to discuss. Out of the gate right now, Shane Pinto, what has he got? 1 goal and 5 assists. Or, excuse me, I have it jotted down here. Stand by. What's his totals right now?
Shane
assists in 4 games. There it is.
I should know too because I have him, but I didn't even bring it up. But when I had him in the stats here, let me bring up the stats right now.
So yeah, 1 goal.
Unprepared. That's how it is. He's got more.
He's got 1 goal.
No. He's got 5 goals this month. 1 assist.
I switch. I put it back.
On 12 shots on goal. Yeah. 27 face-off wins. So I'll take that. If you're trying to get him in our league, you can't because I got him. And that's why I wanted to bring him into the picture. Obviously, we just mentioned Brady Tkachuk also being out. So he's going to be a big focus of this team along with Tim Stützle. And I think Drake Batherson's back as well. So we'll see how they Ottawa's obviously not going to be a great team. But if you need a center, right? We talked how heavy centers are in hockey this season in fantasy. And if you pick up Shane Pinto, you have gotten off to a good start.
Yes, he's certainly provided. So if you took him late in drafts, which is where he was going, currently slated on that third line with Ottawa behind Cousins and Stützle down the middle. But listen, they're going to, listen, last night against Buffalo, that was an unfortunate thing there where basically Buffalo, for all their efforts to try and not looking great the first couple of games, looking a little bit better against Colorado. We'll talk about that later. They finally get punch through and get their first win of the season. But yeah, Pinto's been off to a strong start. And again, will he maintain the pace? Probably not, but he could be a very reliable source, like a secondary source of scoring for your fantasy team moving forward. And the other guy that you wanted to bring up here, let's shift gears and go out to Anaheim. Beckett Senecke, who, strong start, 3 goals, 3 assists out of the gate here for Anaheim. Maybe they weren't expecting him to produce that strong right away out of the gate, but they're playing him right now, and he's, so far they're making him look good.
Yeah, you put him in a line with Mason McTavish, who was just freshly signed, and my last pick of this year's fantasy draft, Cutter Gauthier. And you got a solid second line there, and they've been scoring points. I've been getting goals with Cutter there, and it'd be wise to, if I had room right now, and not everyone was healthy, Beckett would be a part of this team right now.
That's another thing we can kind of dive into here is the beginning of the season, like, because we all experience it. You see a guy out there on waivers, like, oh, I want to add that guy. Then you're looking at your roster. It's like, yeah, but like, there's nobody here I want to cut yet. There's nobody I want to bail on yet, or nobody deserves to be cut. I found myself in that situation in the FSGA league. Anton Lundell off to a good start with the Florida Panthers there, and he's going, with Barkov out for the year. There's no reason to think his, pace is going to, go. There's no reason to think there's going to be a big dip in production from maybe the pace he's already at right now. Then I'm looking at my roster, and it's like, man, do I want to drop Besser? Listen, I know, Vancouver's offense is not off to the strongest start, but there is a little bit of patience that's involved here with, maybe, seeing guys like a Senecke out there and like, oh, do I add him? And it's like, well, see who's expendable, who's off to a slow start that maybe like, okay, I didn't have high hopes for them. I took them because of good ADP at that point. And, there is, to me, like, I don't make any major cuts or changes at this point in the season. There is one that I did. We'll talk about later. When we get to Stamkos, but
that's the thing too. It's we're only in week 2 of the hockey season, so there's only been about 3, 4. Some teams have played 5 games already, and to get rid of to jump the gun and get rid of players is probably not the best idea. When you're dealing with injuries, it's another story. Like you'll want to jump on these players. So this is more for like if you got injuries or something like that. But if you have a team, you're just starting out, you don't want to give up on some of these guys right off the bat.
We got Stayer Survival saying Verhaeghe is sucking right now. Yeah, I know. Listen, Florida's, the start's been good. Maybe, they're still trying to figure things out, I think, there, and figure out who's settling where. A lot of people overlooked Kreider, which we mentioned at the top of the show, at least another address I've seen. Yeah, he basically fell off the face of the earth there. And that's a nice segue there to a guy I want to talk about, which is Leo Carlsson, 1 goal and 4 assists in 3 games so far for the Ducks. He's on, you mentioned that strong second line with McTavish, Gauthier, Cutter Gauthier, and Beckett Senecke. Carlson's between Kreider and on that top line there, along with Alex Killorn. Carlsson, to me, is going to be their version of an Andre Kopitar, where he's just like an anchor center for the franchise for the next 15 years. Trust him in all situations. It's his second year. He's already playing in that top line. They have him, on the top power play, centering the top power play unit. They don't have him on a penalty kill yet. That's fine. That'll come with time. But potential future Selke candidate, I think. But yeah, I think if I don't think Kreider's going to obviously maintain the pace he's scoring at, but Carlson's in the middle and Killorn and Kreider, they have good chemistry there. Yeah, I think Carlson can rack up assists for sure in a category league where he's already got a 1 goal 4 assist ratio there. That's something I'm looking at for sure.
Yeah, he's on the top line, as you mentioned, top power play unit. Those are the guys you really want to hone in on, are the guys that are going to get the most chances to get you points, right? Face-off wins because he's a center, assists. He'll get the goals. They'll come. How many shots on goals? He's already got 8 shots on goal already. So, these are categories. If you're in a category league, you want players like this who are top 2 lines in that power play unit and getting points in many ways that they can.
Comment section busy today. Glenn P checking in, agree. Don't trade away Stud because he's off to a slow start, which is a nice segue into Marek's question. You guys getting trade requests in your league, which you entertain? I haven't got any requests yet, and I'm not, unless it, sometimes you might find that if you're really deep at one position in your draft and you're like, oh, I could really use another, a better bench defenseman, and you happen to see there's another team in the league, like, oh, they happen to be deep at defense, and there's like a obvious, easy 1-for-1, we each prove where we want to improve thing. Those I'll entertain, but outside, I'm not making any hefty big swings off of like fast or slow starts either way. I'm not going to panic if a guy's off to a slow start. So with Stamkos, it might be a sign of more things to come. And I'm not going to, if a guy's off to a very strong start, I'm not, and it's not somebody that we expected, that I'm not going to rush out to add them, maybe on a speculative basis, but I'm not going to go out and try and acquire them either. Now, a guy that we were excited for coming into the season, and he is very, very off to a very good start, Marty Necas. And, when we talk about can this guys keep up the pace, listen, 3 goals and 5 assists in 4 games played. Of course, he's not going to have 8 points. He's not going to average 2 points a game. But that being said, I look back at what Mikko Rantanen did his last few seasons skating. And listen, I remember there was times where people were like, oh, Marty Necas isn't happy in Carolina. Well, you know what? Going and playing next to Nate McKinnon will bring sunshine on even the rainiest of days. So, yes, you look at what Rantanen did there, 105, 104 the last 2 seasons, 92 the season before that. And then he had 88, he had 64 by the time he got traded out of Colorado to Carolina. Yeah, I think Marty Necas is, you look at where he was. He was in Carolina. He had, what, a 70-point season once, which was like a 25, 50 kind of deal. He's on a line with McKinnon now. So I think he can maintain like a 40-plus assist pace, no problem. And with McKinnon feeding him the puck, yeah, I think Marty Necas, 80-plus points, absolutely. Maybe even over 90 this year for him.
Yeah, will we be talking about him next year, kind of, breaking that top 10, top 12, being a first rounder, kind of like how it was, McKinnon and Rantanen in the top of the first round? It's possible that we get to see this, and it's great to see Marty Necas, turn on the Jets here while he's with Colorado. He goes from one good team to another. So, I mean, there's no reason or no excuse for him not to play well, especially being on that top line with him and Terry Lehkonen.
And another point, back to the conversation we had before about not having knee-jerk reactions and overreacting and dealing guys' state of survival. In a keeper league, you may be stuck with a bed yet. And sometimes, yeah, in a keeper league, you just have to be like with certain players. And I haven't put any thought to who would be on that. A Connor Bedard from last year, perfect example. You're not trading Bedard off of a sophomore slump. So you're going to hang on to a guy like that. And there's other guys like that too, where like they get the benefit of the doubt of one bad season. Talk Stamkos later, he may be losing that benefit of the doubt, but there, Marty Necas there on that top line for sure can maintain a strong pace.
Even in our chat, there was I mentioned telling you that someone was asking for some advice, and it was a trade. It was like Frank Nazar for Steven Stamkos and I think Jason Zucker, and I'm like, is this a keepers league? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think you're going to want to trade Frank Nazar at this time in a keepers league. Not for an old Steven Stamkos and Jason Zucker. Not for them.
No, that's somebody that's trying to fish for a sucker, and glad they came to us. And that's another thing too. You know, you can email the show totalhockeynow@gmail.com, but you can also comment on, check the comments. So like if it's a video that already aired, but like you got a question, go in there, we'll check, we'll answer. You can see from our fantasy mock drafts, we went in and answered plenty of questions to help people out, and that's what we're here to do. We enjoy this. We enjoy that you spend your Thursday evenings or mornings if you're in Thailand. You know, Friday mornings, I guess, but nonetheless, Thursday's a busy night for the NHL slate, and we're happy to be here with you. Now, we still got a few more of the fantasy fast starts to talk about. And listen, I want to talk about Jack Eichel. And listen, 4 goals and 5 assists. I knew Marner would have a positive impact on him, but man, like what a start. Marner's got 4 assists. I want to use this tomorrow to go into the betting world and the wagering world. 2 weeks ago, when we talked about Hart Trophy odds, Jack Eichel was 27-1. That is already cut in half to 14-1, essentially. So if you think this is the beginning of something that, if this is an MVP Hart Trophy campaign for Eichel, go out and make your bets now, because he's not, that's just going to keep going down. You know, and Vegas hasn't really even, I don't even think they've played all that well yet either. And, you know, he's already producing. So that is, you know, again, he's not going to, you know, have 9 points. You know, what he's got here? He's got 9 points in 4 games. Again, that's over 2-point pace per game. I don't think he maintains that. But yeah, I'm starting to get a little more excited about a potential Hart Trophy campaign here for Jack Eichel. I know I said in the preview that him and Marner kind of split each other, you know, would split the vote to a degree because of Vegas, but not if he's playing like this.
I love seeing guys sign big deals and deliver right off the bat. Jack Eichel being one of them. You also have Kirill Kaprizov doing his thing here. Eichel, man, he's being that draft pick that we thought he would be, you know, from the NHL draft early a couple of years ago, right? He's really finally healthy. He's found his home in Las Vegas, and now he's delivering. I think we talked about him and the MVP and all that stuff, and probably because he has Marner on the team and some other guys that it would be probably not going to be him. But if he continues at this pace, you know, people might change their minds. And if you bet on him earlier on in the offseason, stick to that bet.
You have a little bit of breaking news here. You mentioned the Tkachuk brothers earlier. The Senators just tweeted out Brady Tkachuk just underwent successful surgery on his right thumb, and he's expected to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So that timeline has you looking basically at a late November, early December return. So around American Thanksgiving. By the way, happy belated Canadian Thanksgiving to any of our pals north of the border, including our pal Fuzzy Chris 91. We got a few more guys to get to here before we start to switch gears and look at tonight's slate here. Zeev Buium here with the Minnesota Wild, 1 goal and 4 assists in 4 games. And listen, you know, this is a guy that we were excited about, you know, in those like teenish rounds in the draft as like a 4th defenseman or a 5th defenseman, somebody, you know, who is going to get an opportunity, you know, kind of like Matthew Schaefer's off to a strong start with the Islanders. You know, William was going a little bit before him. He's running the top power play. He's, you know, yes, he's on a 3rd pairing, but he's got Zach Bogosian, so he can do what he wants to do in terms from an offensive perspective, knowing that he's got a strong stay-at-home guy like Bogo on his pairing. I don't think he keeps up the pace necessarily, but I do think he is a reliable fantasy defenseman contributor throughout here. I think he's in a very good situation there. They can afford to play. They can afford to shelter his minutes too, which is nice.
Yeah, and he's only going to be on that 3rd line for so long. He's on the first power play unit, as well as he's not on the penalty kill, but he's on the first power play, and he's got 10 shots on goal already from defense on that 3rd line. I mean, if you're in a categories league and you're looking for a defenseman, obviously he'll give you those stats, but he's also going to take his shots, and he's done that here, and you'll get those categories if you pick him.
All right, and I appreciate the chat here. Get buzzing today, just keeping us busy. They dropped the, they talk about MBV Brady out 6 to 8 weeks. Thanks. I didn't have time to put the topic bar up. If somebody's watching with the audio down for some reason, now they know Brady out 6 to 8 weeks. Ouch, according to Glenn. And yeah, listen, that's a little bit longer than maybe you want, but and maybe for Ottawa, it's going to be a bumpy time for them. But you know, thumb is important. You can't mess around with that. You got to let that sit out when they can. We do have a trade question here in the chat from three little Frenchies there, cute little Frenchies there. Hey guys, someone offered me Clayton Keller for Wyatt Johnson in a 12-team head-to-head points league with small hits, blocks, shots, power play points, and he has Dylan Gunther already. It depends on how deep your roster is, because if it's a shallow number of rosters, I don't love having too many guys from the same team. Especially both being at wing positions there, like Gunther and Keller, because then you get on a busy night. Sometimes you got to choose which one you want to play. Sometimes that burns you. Sometimes you pick the wrong guy. So if it's a deeper league, then I don't mind having guys from at the same position there. It's different when you could stack a center and a wing, like a Logan Cooley, let's say.
Well, again, this is what we talked about, right? This is jumping the gun a little bit too early because Clayton Keller is not off to the hottest of starts. But Johnston, who I had him last season, and he did not get off to a hot start either. And now this season, he's off to a hot start. He's got 9 shots on goal, 14 faceoff wins. He's got a hit. He's got 3 blocks, obviously 3 goals and 1 assist. And Keller right now is not even close to that. Both of these guys are young. Both of these guys could be eventually cornerstones of their teams. I would not jump on this trade just yet. I think it's because of the fact that Keller's not off to. We're only into 5 games this season. I would not just jump the gun on that trade just yet. But
I think that this falls into that category of, do you really, those are, like you said, there's some big names involved there. This is not a depth edition. This is two bigger names there. You don't want to overreact. And one of the things I look at with Keller not being off to a great start, look at what they've done. Utah's done offensively as a whole in their 4 games. 1-3, 1-3. The team as a whole is not really scoring right now. So I would hold off on that deal. Even though you're getting Keller, I wouldn't. Those are 2 big enough names. Those are both guys that went in the first, we'll say 5 rounds of most drafts. I'm holding off on that one right now.
And also look at the teams they're playing on. You're going to get, what you're getting from Dallas. Great offensive output from that team. Johnston's on the second line, top line on the power play. These are things you got to consider too, how much time he's going to be on the ice and get to be playing here, opposed to Keller, who may not be on the greatest of offenses in Utah. So there are things you have to look a little bit deeper into than just what the stats are within the first couple of games.
Now, another question from the chat here, Marek saying, when is Marner going to catch fire with goals? We'll see. I mean, at some point, if Eichel keeps lighting the lamp like that, you're going to have to focus on him, and maybe that opens. I mean, Marner's always been more of the pass first guy than the shoot first guy, but it'll be interesting to see how that kind of seesaws and that dynamic goes. Now, speaking of Marner, the guy that's, replacing his spot alongside Austin Matthews is Matthew Knies. Knies off to 1 goal and 5 assists in 4 games. Now, listen, he's not the same play. He plays a heavier game than Mitch Marner. Let's be clear. They're not the same player in that regard. But in terms of him having a heavy assist total like Marner had next to Matthews, sure, that can absolutely stay at it. I'm not going to say at the same pace, but maybe he can, chase it and keep it close to in that regard. So yeah, I'm buying Matthew Knies being an assist machine at this point.
Yeah, another you throw him with Austin Matthews, like you said, and that's, and that points are going to be scored at some point, right? The goals will come. Obviously, the assists will always be there. He's on the top power play. He was a guy that a lot of people were looking into last year as well, when he was coming up. So this has been in the works since last season, and some guy that is finally going to get his chance to be that top line guy alongside, a first round all-star in Austin Matthews.
And yeah, listen, I know that right wing spot right now is kind of like a musical chair spot in Toronto till they can figure out how that's going to go. But I mean, Matthews and Knies are handcuffed to each other on that top line for the foreseeable future. And anytime I can have a player that's attached to a guy like Matthews, I'm going to have confidence that rate of production is going to stay pretty consistent in a good way. Last guy for fast starts, Aliaksei Protas with the Capitals there, is leading the team in scoring, 3 goals, 2 assists there. Washington, him and Connor McMichael are the guys that, are expected to take those big steps coming up right now. He's playing on a line with him. He's the second line with the Caps. I think as far as Washington's concerned, their offense is coming from those top two lines, and maybe it's the third line gets a little going with Lapierre and Leonard. Yeah, those are going to be the top. And if he's the guy that's had that pedigree, that okay, he's progressing along and he's been following along that right path. He's still there. Yeah, I'm okay with him here.
This is a guy that's going to get you offensive categories as well as defensive categories because he's on the top penalty kill. He's also quarterbacking the power play for that second unit. So you're going to get the best that you can. Already off to 3 goals, 2 assists from that Washington offense there. That's another guy you got to, even if you don't pick him up now, you put him on your watch list. You hold on and you see if he can continue with the production that he's doing. Because as we said, we're only 4 or 5 games into the season. We'll see how it pans out moving forward.